So let's go ahead and first start out by learning what a dashboard actually looks like and some of the key components of a dashboard. Right now, you'll notice that I am actually in the solution workbook. Now, you don't need to be in the solution workbook. I'm only going to be in it for just a couple of minutes while I introduce dashboards to you, and then we'll actually jump back into the main workbook that we're going to be working through. So don't worry about actually being in this workbook. You can just kind of watch for right now. So here is the dashboard that we are going to be creating. Now, there are three very extremely important things about dashboards that every dashboard you create needs to include, or at least incorporate in it. The very first thing is you need to make sure that your dashboard only includes the most important metrics. You do not want to clutter up your dashboard with just a bunch of random information or information that's just, good to know or good to have. You only want the most important metrics on your dashboard. So for us, the most important metrics in this case study is going to be sales, gross profit, and gross margin. And you'll notice that every single thing on this dashboard revolves around those three items: sales, gross profit, and gross margin. And what we are going to do is slice and dice these different things in different ways. So up top, these are sort of like summary statistics, right? We have total sales for 2018 and how that compared to last year. Last quarter sales, the gross profit in 2018, how that compared to last year. In 2018 profit margin versus last year. We then come down here and we see total sales in 2018 versus the budget. And then we see over here gross profit right here, the actual in blue, versus the forecast or the budget. So you'll notice that we are just taking these three key items and we're slicing and dicing into different ways. So then I'm going to come down here and we have total sales within each of these different categories. So we have, 6 different categories that we group all of our products into. And here are the total sales within each of those categories, prior year versus current year, and what the change was. And then next to that, we have the margin by category. So once again, we're just taking these few key items, sales, gross profit, gross margin, and we're slicing and dicing into different ways. And then down here what we have is we have the total sales over the entire time of the company by each category. And when I click on this little spin button right here, you'll notice that this chart automatically changes, which is really cool. And then finally over here we have the Net Promoter Score. I'm not going to go into what Net Promoter Score is right now. I'll teach you that later. But basically it's like the consumer sentiment of your company. That's basically what that is. Now, it might seem abysmal only having 20%, but we'll learn later that's actually a pretty good number to have. So that's the very first thing about dashboards, is it only needs to include the most important metrics. If it's not important, if it's not a key performance metric, get rid of it. It does not belong on your dashboard. You want it to be very clean and very simple, but it doesn't mean that it's not powerful. Okay, now for the second thing. The second thing is you need to make sure the dashboard is very visual and also very visually appealing. So you'll notice that we are using big text right here. We're not using teeny tiny little bitty text where it's going to make it hard to read. We're using big numbers to make things really stand out. We are also using a lot of charts and graphs and different types of charts and graphs to show different things. We are then using different conditional formatting to include numbers to show very visually when things are going up or when things are going down. So you'll notice that this dashboard is very visual. We're using a lot of charts and graphs, and we're using big numbers, but it's also very visually appealing. At least I think so. I mean, I guess I created it, so I think it looks beautiful. You might disagree, and I think you're wrong, but hey, we have different opinions, I guess. But basically, you want it to be very visual, and you want it to be very visually appealing. Now, the third thing is you want to make sure your dashboard is dynamic and it's interactive. Now, this dashboard right here isn't super interactive. There's not a ton of things that you can click and move around and change like that. We could make it that way, but we're trying to keep it a little bit more simple in this course just to introduce you to dashboards, but you can really go crazy and make things extremely interactive. But we do have different components to make it interactive. For instance, down here, how you can change this to see, oh, I want to see total travel sales, or I want to see book sales, or grooming, or supplies, or apparel sales. So we do add some interactive elements to it. But the dashboard is very dynamic. How we actually set up the data is we set it up so it will be extremely easy to add in new data, to change things around, and everything on the dashboard will automatically update. So it is dynamic in that regard. So when you set up your dashboard, make sure it is dynamic, that it's easy enough for you to add in additional data, and it's not going to take you 5 hours to rejigger the entire thing. And make sure it's interactive so people can drill into data how they want to and things like that. Now, once we actually get to the Power BI segment, well, in that segment, it is going to be extremely dynamic. And there's some actually really cool things with Power BI. I'm trying to keep you on the hook right now, but we'll go through Power BI in a couple hours once we get through the Excel module. So just remember those key things as you're going throughout your dashboard. And if you can remember those 3 things, to only include the most important metrics, to make sure it's very visual and very visually appealing, and third, to make it dynamic and interactive, well then you will be on a great course to making an awesome, amazing dashboard. Now with that, what I'm going to do is actually go back into the other Excel workbook, the Excel workbook that we're going to be working on, and I'm going to start introducing you to the case and to the data.